big difference. Everybody ready? So Kathy's not here and Izzy's not here. Okay. Legislative day number 21 will now come to order. Please rise for a moment of silent meditation. I will now call upon Councilman Marks, who will introduce the Scout Troop, who will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Councilman Marks?
Sure. We'd like to have the Webelow Scouts from Cub Scout Pack 1742 come forward. They are with, their organization is chartered as St. Thomas Episcopal Church in Towson.
Come on up. Come on up.
Good job. Thank you.
Is there a motion to approve the journal for the meeting of December 2nd, 2019?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
The journal is now approved. Enrollment of bills. Bills 55-19, 57-19, 59-19, 60-19, 61-19, 62-19, 63-19, and 64-19 were passed by the council, signed by the executive, and are hereby enrolled. Mr. Secretary, we now read all bills for introduction, please.
Very well, Mr. Chair. Bill 67-19, Current Expense Budget, Office of Home Energy Programs. Bill 68-19, Capital Budget, Street Rehabilitation, Minor Bridge Repair. Bill 69-19, Development Regulations, Performance Security. Bill 70-19, Current Expense Budget, Port Security Grant. Bill 71-19, Current Expense Budget, BJIA Body Armor Grant. Bill 72-19, Secure All Firearms Effectively, also known as the SAFE Act. Bill 73-19, sponsored by Councilman Marks, Zoning Regulations, Public Utility Service Centers and Storage Yards. And Bill 74-19, also sponsored by Councilman Marks, Development Limited Exemptions.
All right, the council will now consider bills for final reading and vote. Mr. Secretary, first bill, please.
First bill is Bill 65-19, Current Expense Budget, Community-Based Programs to Test and Cure Hepatitis C.
I see Dr. Branch isn't here, but I see his, yep, coming up. Yep, it's good to see you. Don't tell me Dr. Branch has the flu.
No, he does not have the flu.
Okay, it's going around.
The flu.
It's going around.
Yes. Good evening, Council Chair and members of the Council. The administration is requesting a supplemental appropriation of federal funds totaling $85,261 to be used for the Hepatitis C Grant Funds Program. These funds will be used to hire 3 part-time program staff to increase surveillance and testing activities and to provide case management services to individuals diagnosed with hepatitis C to decrease the risk of transmission. As you know, hepatitis C is a liver infection caused by the hepatitis C virus. It is the #1 cause of liver cancer and liver transplants. It is most commonly caused by sharing needles or syringes, but there are other methods of transmission. It is possible to have hepatitis C and not know it, which is why we want to increase our surveillance.
Any questions or comments from the members? Councilman Jones?
No, I would just like to tell you that Dr. Branch gave us a good education on hepatitis C
I heard.
last time he was here, and I'm very proud to support this funding.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All right, Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on Bill 65-19.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Marks? Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Bill 65-19 is passed. Thank you. Mr. Secretary, next bill, please.
Next is Bill 66-19, sponsored by Councilman Marks, zoning regulations, boarding or rooming houses.
If okay, why don't we do the amendment
Amendment
first,
first,
and then
yeah.
we'll go on to the questions and comments. Mr. Secretary, can you read the amendment to this bill, please?
Certainly, Mr. Chair. This is an amendment that grew out of a review of the bill by myself and the Office of Law, and we made an amendment to remove language that states that the owner or other individual occupants of a property shall have the burden of proving that the unrelated individuals are residing as guests and not for compensation. So that language is being struck, and we clarified language also at the end of the bill to state that any false statement made to a code official with regard to an investigation under this paragraph, meaning the definition of a boarding or rooming house, shall be punishable pursuant to Section 1-2-217 of the county code and not referring to any particular subsection.
Any questions on the amendments, comments, questions on the amendment? Councilman Marks?
No, I'm fully in support of the amendments, and I thank the county attorney for his discussions earlier today. I think we're in agreement on this. So thank
Everybody
you.
okay with the amendments? Any questions, comments? All right, is there a motion to approve the amendment to Bill 66-19?
So moved.
I'll second.
Been a motion and second. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on the amendment to Bill 66-19.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
The amendment passes. Questions or comments on the bill as amended? Councilman Marks?
Thank you very much. We had a lot of discussion about this bill during the work session, but the basic summary of it is as follows. As you know, renting to 3 or more unrelated people for compensation requires a boarding house use permit. We have found that there are some situations where landlords are not having to secure boarding house permits because they claim there is no compensation involved beyond the first or second unrelated tenant. This legislation simply tightens that loophole by stating that additional individuals, including where compensation is allegedly not involved, are counted toward the 3 or more unrelated person rule.
Any questions or comments on this bill as amended?
Mr. Chair.
Councilman Crandall?
Sure. Councilman Marks, thanks for your work on this. And I think a lot of this, of your consideration of this bill pertains to student housing, especially in the Towson area. But I would say that my constituents would think that the bill might not go far enough, and that would suggest that we are probably not done with this issue. It's an issue in my district, and if I can speak for Councilwoman Bevins, issue in her district where we have residential properties that are simply being abused with the amount of people that are living in these places, and it's a difficult thing to enforce. And I'm not so sure that the county code and the laws that we have kept up with this trend that we're seeing in our district. So I do appreciate your work. And again, we just might not be done with this issue. Thank you.
I agree.
Any other questions or comments? All right, is there a motion to approve Bill 66-19 as amended?
So moved.
Second.
Been motion and second. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on Bill 66-19 as amended.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Catch? Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Bill 66-19 as amended is passed. Council now consider all fiscal matters. Extensive testimony was taken at the council's work session on December 10th, 2019. The witnesses who testified at the work session are available to restate their testimony if needed. If a council member has any questions regarding a particular fiscal matter, that item will be discussed as a separate issue. I will now call upon the Secretary to read the cover letter for fiscal matters 1 through 8.
Fiscal Matter 1 is a contract with Total Contracting Incorporated for on-call painting services. Fiscal Matter 2 is 2 contracts for on-call painting services in county-owned and operated buildings. Fiscal Matter 3 is a contract with Comforts of Home 3 for assisted living services. Fiscal Matter 4 is a contract with ARC Environmental LLC for testing and risk assessment services. Fiscal Matter 5 is a agreement with Johns Hopkins Bayview Medical Center Incorporated. Fiscal Matter 6 is an agreement with Northwest Hospital Center Incorporated. Fiscal Matter 7 is a purchase order with Sabra and Associates Incorporated related to the Towson Circulator Program. And Fiscal Matter 8 is a contract with Sage Policy Group Incorporated for consulting services with the County Council and the Auditor's Office.
Any questions or comments on any of the fiscal matters?
Circulator.
You wanna say something?
Yeah, just briefly.
Councilman Marks?
We talked a lot about this at the work session. Again, I think it's a significant milestone that we are advancing the study of the Towson Circulator, something that I have long fought for, but I know that this county council has also endorsed in previous years. I thank the county executive for his support, also our state legislators and our stakeholder organizations that have advanced this important concept. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments on any of the fiscal matters 1 through 8? All right. Is there a motion to approve fiscal matters 1 through 8?
So moved.
And I'll second it. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on fiscal matters 1 through 8.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Marks? Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Fiscal matters 1 through 8 are approved. We now consider miscellaneous business. Mr. Secretary, first item, please.
First item is Resolution 157-19, sponsored by Councilman Quirk. This is a resolution authorizing the property tax refund for Alan Washington, who as a disabled veteran is entitled to a refund under state law.
And it's my honor to move it. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and second. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on Resolution 157-19.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Mr. Marks? Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Resolution 157-19 is passed. Mr. Secretary, next item, please.
Resolution 158-19 is also sponsored by Councilman Quirk. This is a resolution to authorize the property tax refund to William Harmon, who as a disabled veteran is entitled to a refund under state law.
I'll move it.
I'll second.
Motion second. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on Resolution 158-19.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Marks? Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Resolution 158-19 is passed. Mr. Secretary, next item, please.
Next is Resolution 159-19. This is a resolution sponsored by Mr. Jones, authorizing the property tax refund to Antoine Hunt, who is entitled to a refund under state law as a disabled veteran.
Honor to move the resolution.
Second.
Motion and second. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on Resolution 159-19.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Resolution 159-19 is passed. Mr. Secretary, next item, please.
That is the end of the miscellaneous business, Mr. Chair.
Aha. So is there any further business to come before the council?
There is no further business, Mr. Chair.
Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
I will second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. As is customary, anyone who has signed up prior to the meeting with the Secretary is allowed 3 minutes to speak. Mr. Secretary, are there any speakers signed up for this evening?
There are 7 speakers, and I will give you the speaker registration, Mr. Chair.
7 speakers? Yes, sir. Okay. All right, so each speaker has up to 3 minutes to speak, and I will call your name, and then if you want to come up to the speaker stand, you have up to 3 minutes. There'll be a clock. And then I'll call this next speaker as well, just so you can be ready. So our first speaker is Ms. Ruth Getz, followed by Dee Hodges. Mrs. Ruth Getz. And good evening.
Good evening. I noticed that we're missing 2 council members are absent tonight, so I hope they're both feeling well. The first thing I wanted to say is last week there was I'm not sure if it's called a terrorist attack yet or not, but I just want to mention their names. Leah Mindel-Ferenc, Moshe Deutsch, and Douglas Rodriguez, and Joseph Seals were murdered in Jersey City, and the kosher Jewish market, basically, they were attacked in the United States for being Jewish. So, I don't know, I just think that's an important thing to know, that there's a hatred of Jewish people and they're being killed in this country. So I wanted to thank Councilman Patoka he did take a small action. At the 2 local kosher supermarkets, they have put a camera for a type of security there. So I wanted to thank him for that. And the other thing that I wanted to talk about is that the last meeting, when I testified about the SAFE Act, after my testimony, Councilman Jones stated that he vehemently opposed everything that I say. And Councilman Patoka also questioned me. Sorry he's not here, but I'm planning on testifying this tonight. He questioned me in an antagonizing way, that when I came home that evening, he had called me privately to apologize to the way he treated me. So I kind of wanted to have a public apology, because I was treated publicly in a way that was kind of disrespectful, I felt, because part of being able to testify is being able to disagree in front of the council members, and for being criticized about that just makes it more difficult to testify. So I just wanted to express that. And usually I don't like to talk about myself personally, but I would like to state to the Democrats here that I was raised in a Democrat family, and I was a voting Democrat for most of my adult life. But a number of years back, I became a little bit more educated instead of just taught by my family and other media, I guess, by reading books and biographies and things like that. And I did switch to the Republican Party. And I support the Republican Party's platform of faith, law and order, pro-life, freedom, and liberty. And I would appreciate to be respected, even though I do think differently than the Democrat Party.
Councilman Jones.
Yeah. Again, I guess, thank you for coming. And I guess thank us just for people that may not have been here before or last week. I did say that I disagree with everything you said. However, we should put it in the proper context. I first thank you for coming, and then I said, although I disagree, I support your right.
I vehemently, you can listen to the recording, you used that word, I vehemently oppose everything you say.
Okay, I vehemently oppose everything you said. I thank you for coming, and I supported your right for saying it.
That's
And
true.
so that was the other part. So I
Okay.
didn't want it to be hanging out there like I just vehemently oppose everything you said. I thank you for coming, as I thank you today. And I support your right to say what you say and believe what you believe, because we all come from different walks of life with different belief systems. And that's it. I don't think I was being harsh or mean or
Well,
what. If I did, I certainly apologize. It was never
Thank you.
my intention.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate
Sure.
that.
I think I know Councilman Patoka, he's out of town tonight, and I know Councilwoman Bevins is definitely sick tonight. I do, and I could be wrong, but I think, did Councilman Patoka and you have a conversation about it?
I wasn't home when he called.
Okay.
He just left a message.
I think he did call to, try to talk to you and say
Right,
he was a
but
little
I just
hard.
thought it should be done publicly because he
Un-
spoke to me publicly. That's
Understood.
all.
We will
That's all.
certainly relay it to the councilman.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Well, thank you. Our next speaker, Dee Hodges, followed by Jerome Payne.
Hi. I just thought I'd say something, even though I found out at the door that you're not taking full testimony on the SAFE Act. But what strikes me over all the years that we've had all of these gun bills, that really the ultimate purpose is to take away guns from law-abiding citizens. I think this is very, very dangerous and not what our founders meant to happen. They were very concerned that citizens had guns in order to protect themselves from essentially a tyrannical government. I don't think that people will willingly give up their guns, but if you make it harder for law-abiding citizens to buy guns, eventually people would be less safe. It is the gun owners that probably keep down crime. And I just want to point out the John Lott book, More Guns, Less Crime. He estimated in the 90s that there were up to 2 million people who saved themselves with a gun, many by just pointing a gun, every single year. And now the estimates have blown up to 5 million incidents every year. And I have to say, I was one who was saved by a good person pointing a gun, and that's all that happened.
And
Thank you.
Mrs. Hodges, I appreciate you coming in today. I wasn't sure what you meant about not taking full testimony.
I gave you a copy of the testimony that I had written, but my understanding was that you weren't taking testimony specifically on this act tonight.
Oh, you know what, I understand. Yeah. Right, okay, I understand. Yeah, and anybody can speak for up to 3 minutes on any subject.
Okay.
And so you're always welcome.
Am I up to my 3?
I don't know what's the clock here. You're more than welcome. There's 3 minutes. Okay.
Okay. I'd like to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas. If you're Jewish, Happy Hanukkah. If you are other, Happy Holidays.
Thank you. Councilman Jones?
Well, again, I thank you so much for coming. One of the things I wanted to add, I heard what you said, and the bill, the SAFE Act, is to stop people from stealing guns. I don't think law-abiding citizens are buying these guns that are being stolen from gun shows and gun stores. I think law-abiding citizens walk into the gun store, they pay their money, they go through the process.
I agree, but is 2 robberies a year for, 26 or so gun salesmen, gun shops, is that a lot? I asked a couple of people that today, and they didn't think that was a lot. And plus, we don't know what was stolen. If the shop was broken into, we don't know how the security was. What is concerning is that eventually this act could lead to such an expense for gun owners that they would simply go out of business. And I think that they're already under a lot of regulations.
Councilman Jones?
Not to get into a big debate, because I thank you, but let me just say this. I'm so happy that the other person brought up the 6 people killed in New Jersey. And you say, well, there's only 1 gun stolen or 2 stolen, or I'm not sure. But I'm willing to bet today that the gunmen in New Jersey did not have those guns legally. I'm willing to bet that they got those guns through some other method other than walking in the store, going through a background check, buying the guns. And that ended up in 6 people being killed, including a police officer.
That may be true, but
So
good people with guns still point them, and they win. If there are up to 5 million cases a year in this country, that outdoes everything else, crime-wise.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones, and thanks for asking the questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Hodges.
Thank all of you.
Thank you, Dee.
Our next speaker, Jerome Payne, followed by Jamie Gross. And good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to speak. This is a little bit off the cuff for me, but I am a firm believer in the Second Amendment, and I believe that this legislation is a backdoor attempt at denying access for people to access their Second Amendment right to self-defense, to be able to go to a store and legally purchase one. By what the bill entails, it's going to put more restrictions, permits, regulations, and fees and burdens upon the business owners. And what will happen is that the costs of those firearms will either go up because the owner of the gun shops will offset and raise the prices, or those businesses, and which, you know, I'm sure some people might agree with it, will close up shop, or they could relocate. Now, one of the problems, if these businesses relocate, you very well could have, it's not going to really affect me. I have a car. I can go ahead and drive to Harford County and purchase legally and do what I need to do. But I believe the law actually discriminates against people who are living on fixed incomes. I was raised by a single parent, and, you know, we had to make our bills. But I want to say that if someone doesn't have access, Baltimore City, there's not one firearm shop in Baltimore City. There's no access for anybody that's living on a fixed income and does not have private means of transportation to legally purchase a firearm on their own. Now, I've got some statistics here, if you don't mind. It's basically, we're looking at cities. Houston has a population of 2.3 million people. They had 276 murders in 2018. These statistics come from the FBI, FBI.org, 2018. Chicago, demographically pretty much the same. There's 2.7 million people in Chicago, 563 murders. There is no access to firearms, to legally purchase firearms in Chicago. Houston, Chicago, two cities that are primarily pretty much the same, and the end result is there's more crime. So I ask that you reconsider and think about the bill, because it's going to put a burden on the business owners. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker, Jamie Gross, followed by Myra Appleby. And good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. James Groves. Just want to let you know that I'm trying to figure out how you're going to go about doing this. Maryland state law has a preemption law. So at the whims of Johnny O, progressive county executive, if this is what he would like to do, that's fine and dandy. Take it up to the state. The state tells you what you can do with firearms regulations. You can't sit back as a county and decide to further infringe upon the Second Amendment rights of your citizens on a county level. And if the state level wants to take it up, we'll be glad to do battle on the state level at that time. I don't know. I think Mr. Payne summed it up pretty well as far as statistical data. What I would say is, I've been in the business of construction for over 25 years. I would say that makes me an expert. I would also say that dealing with landlord leases and issues as such is a bit of a problem for people. Trying to put pipe bollards out in front of a store, if that's part of this law, good luck with that. You have underground utilities, that of which many people, possibly sitting here, don't really realize planning and zoning may. There's other issues. You've got handicapped access. The criteria goes on and on based on location. So is the idea to press gun shops and firearms dealers out of the county? I understand the idea behind public safety, but I do not believe that this is going to achieve that. The other notable thing about firearms dealers is that they have to follow ATF standards. These are federal regulations. When someone sets up a firearms dealer, the ATF investigates. The ATF sets up and makes sure that they're safe. They make sure that they have ways to lock up their firearms. What I would say is that when you deal with the ATF on this standard, it's probably not a good idea as a gun dealer to walk into this council and give public testimony stating, "Hi, I'm such and such gun dealer. I lock up my guns over here every night. This is the way that I perform my operational security." let me explain the many vast different ways of which I can lock up my firearms, so now everyone gets to hear it and break into my store. Sometimes doing something that you think is the best means of achieving a goal actually puts people in harm's way. And a lot of these dealers are already taking the precautionary measures to lock down firearms. You know, I go out on the street every day, and I don't want to have my family member shot by a person that has a firearm illegally. But do you really think I'm going to get it from a gun shop when I can build them in my garage?
Thank you. Councilman Jones?
No, I think the issue is these smash and grabs where people back a stolen car into the gun shop, and in less than a minute, they're off with 20, 30, 40 guns. And these guns end up on the street harming people all across this nation. I think that's the target of what we're trying to do. No one's trying to put gun shops out of business. The administration is working with the gun shops. We're trying to make sure that this is not something that's going to put them out of business or cause them great harm.
Well, I don't think that most gun dealers are upset about the fact that a smash and grab could take place, because most of them are locking them up already. I look at this as a licensing fee, and I'd like to know what that licensing fee is going to be. That would be pretty interesting. But it's also going to be a code compliance issue. If you're going to make one set of rules that goes across everybody, you got to understand there's going to be gray areas where people cannot even comply with those things. That's all. I mean, what will happen if a firearms dealer doesn't comply with this? If they say, no, I'm not going to comply, what happens then? Do the police enforce it? Is that what it's going to be like in Baltimore County, like Virginia? Get the police in there to enforce that law for a new code that people decided to enact upon a gun dealer? The amount of guns that you have in Baltimore City right now, half of them, if you watch, you can watch on Facebook, you can watch where they dump the guns. They'll show a picture of the gun. They don't show a picture of the criminal. Oh, not the person who killed someone. They show a picture of a gun. And half the time, they're junky old guns from years ago. Dealers are doing a very good job at keeping guns out of the hands of criminals. But how about as a county, you actually require state police to enforce when a felon applies for a firearm and gets denied? What happens to that? A lot of times the gun dealers just turn the people away and the police do nothing. You call the cops, they'll laugh. But, you know, not every felon also. I believe in felon reform. I don't believe every person who's a felon, you know, you let them out, you give them the right to vote. I don't believe that every person who has a felony charge necessarily is a violent individual. And sometimes people do have things on their records that they didn't even realize from years ago, juvenile offenses, things like that. So I understand the idea of not penalizing every felon, but, you know, something's got to give. We have laws on the books that do work, not using them.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker, Myra Appleby, followed by Jesse Yeager.
Hello.
Good evening.
Hi. Mira Appleby. I'm absolutely here to talk about the little I know about the SAFE Act and what's been introduced. I know more details to come. Ruti, my friend, is here as well. We vehemently support the effort of the county in terms of this legislation. We have a gun violence epidemic in our country, even in our state, locally. Moms Demand Action is very much about saving lives. 100 gun deaths a day across the country, is an epidemic here in Maryland. This county is actually the leader in terms of suicide by gun death. This county, Baltimore County. So anything to, and then just wanted to say as well, in terms of Moms Demand and what we strongly believe is gun safety. Not anti-Second Amendment, not anti-gun, but gun safety is one of the pillars that we strongly believe in. And it was shocking but important to realize what is happening through in this county around burglary. And to me, it makes complete sense to take action for the public in terms of safety. If the shop is closed, it makes sense to secure the weapons and address the issue. So absolutely sort of shocking to hear some of the other thoughts around this, but anything to save lives, very, very important. So that's what I'll say.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Next speaker, Jesse Yeager, followed by James Martin, who was our last speaker. Good evening.
Thank you. I sit here tonight to call your attention to the crisis our schools are in. This is a county-wide epidemic of severe overcrowding with a complete lack of foresight and planning for the current development occurring in the county. In the Central District, out of 23 elementary schools, 15 of these schools are above 92% capacity and 12 are well over 100%. You focus on growth, and yet you have failed to pay attention to our county's best asset, our future generation. You have built skyscrapers on sand, and our community will crumble if action is not taken immediately. To allow for such growth without making sure there are schools and infrastructure in place to support the influx of people is malfeasance. We need a moratorium on all building until a concrete plan is laid out and action is taken to ensure all of our schools are providing the safe and excellent education that every child deserves and that the county boasts about. Pleasant Plains is at an atrocious 133% above capacity. The pathetic attempt to heal this wound has been the smallest and most short-sighted efforts one could imagine. Only one school has been chosen to alleviate this problem. Kicking the can down the road makes a lot of noise, but it solves nothing. It has been proposed that 98 kids from Pleasant Plains be redistricted to Hampton Elementary starting next school year. A major lack of foresight has forgotten to add in any new development numbers, and the study used 2018 enrollment numbers. There are 600 new units planned for the Hampton catchment alone, and that is only counting construction that is already mostly done. It does not account for future projects that are in planning phases now. It's time we move from triage and into the operating room. We need more schools and less residential development. There is no point in bringing more people into the county when there is nowhere for them to safely attend school. And people won't come if there aren't good schools. If Baltimore County wants to continue to boast about our schools, they need to give them the attention they so desperately need. I thank Council Members Marks and Koch for meeting with me, and I look forward to continuing to work together to address this critical issue.
Thank you. Thank you. And then our last speaker this evening is James Martin. Good evening.
Good evening. I just wanted to say I am a supporter of the Second Amendment. My only question regarding this bill is what type of cost is this going to add to the business cost for running things? The reason why I ask this is I actually purchased a gun at one of the stores that were robbed down in Montgomery County, and they ran a truck through the back of the building in order to do it, the United Gun Shop. And it wasn't stolen because they kept the stuff in the safe. And they had video footage and everything like that to be able to catch everything to be able to do that. So from what I understand, all the guns were recovered from that incident. So I just want to know what else needs to be done, because it's going to add a lot of cost and overhead for businesses to be able to do this, and they may put them out of business related to that, where they already are doing what they need to do, like with security cameras and locks on the doors and everything like that. And that's just my only questions regarding it.
Councilman Jones?
Well, let me thank you for testifying. Really appreciate you coming out, as well as the other folks who came out tonight. I know one gentleman said this was his first time. We welcome you. Come back as often as you like. It sounds like the gun store in Montgomery County is what I would call a good actor and taking good precautions. I think the issue, what we're trying to establish, is to come up with some standard, not to put someone out of business, just to say there should be some standard. Right now, as I understand it, there are no standards. So one person may put his guns in a safe, the other person may just put a lock on the door and walk away.
Right.
And I think they're just trying to come up with some baseline. But I will say this, no one, and I'm speaking for my colleagues, and I'll take a chance here, I don't think any of us want to put anybody out of business. And if people have some reasonable issues in terms of not being able to comply, I'm sure we're going to work with them in some way so that they can be, I think as the bill is going to be written, or as it is written, people will be able to say, I can't afford to do that, but I can do this.
Okay.
And we'll take all of that into consideration. But no one wants to put anybody out of business.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. As Councilman Jones said, I do appreciate the 7 public speakers who took your time and came out to speak tonight and to express your views. And also appreciate the scouts that came out too, that did the Pledge of Allegiance. Good job, guys, back there. I did want to wish, there you go. And I did want to wish everybody really a happy holidays. And of course, with this weather, please have a very safe drive home. So, I don't know, I'm not sure. All righty. Well, everybody, thank you again. Have a good night.